You're 18 years old in 1944 in Okayama, Japan. You're arranging cedar cones in your father's small village shop, the scent of which shavings hang thick in the air. Behind you, your father shapes a block of wood. His murmuring accompanies the scrape of the blade. Through the open door, the drone of cicadas drifts in with the heat, blending with a rhythm of work passed down through generations. Then the bell above the door rings. You look up expecting a customer, but instead you see gleaming black boots, an immaculate uniform, and a face carved from stone. It's the Imperial Navy recruiting officer, and is come for you. The officer places 3 sheets of paper on the counter as though they were death certificates. Your father's murmuring stops. His blade halts mid-carve. Choose one, he says, in a voice as flat as winter rain. You read. Option 1, I enthusiastically volunteer to die for the Emperor. Option 2, I volunteer to die for the Emperor. Option 3, I do not volunteer to die for the Emperor. Looks like a choice, doesn't it? It isn't. Your name is already printed on every form. Everyone will know what you chose. Choosing option 3 is like tattooing coward onto your family surname. But even if you say no, it makes no difference. Ask Kota, the boy who refused, and later saw his name listed as a proud volunteer anyway. After all, the officer left with a 100% enlistment rate, according to him. Your hands shake as you reach for the pen as though it were a murder weapon. The scent of cedar now smells of a funeral. Congratulations. You're now part of Japan's Special Attack Force. They named it after the divine wind that once saved Japan from Mongol invasion. This time, you are the wind, and you're expected to explode on impact. Before we continue with this tragic story, we'd like to thank War Thunder for supporting this channel. War Thunder is an epic free-to-play military action MMO where tanks, aircraft, helicopters, and warships clash in massive dynamic battles across realistic maps from around the world. But with a reset button real pilots never had. You can command ground vehicles, take to the skies in fighter planes, or take charge of powerful warships. In combined arms modes, land and air forces fight together, while naval battles feature ship-to-ship combat in exclusive maritime locations. Every machine, from the roar of jet engines to the recoil of naval guns, is modeled in incredible detail with realistic physics. The latest update, Leviathans, brings new legendary machines. The Japanese battleship Yamato, the American stealth helicopter Comanche, the Soviet T-72B3 tank, plus revamped maps of Berlin and Cuba for greater visual immersion. War Thunder is free on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Download it using the link in the description. And if you're new or haven't played in over 6 months, get exclusive bonuses, 100,000 Silver Lions, premium vehicles, and much more. And if you want to take the battle with you, War Thunder Mobile brings those same epic battles across land, sea, and air straight to your pocket. Free on iOS and Android. Now, back to our story. 3 days later, your flight training begins at a base where they've apparently never heard of landing practice. Why waste time learning skills you'll never use? Explains Captain Watanabe with a horror film smile. This week we learn takeoff. Next week, navigation. After that, how to target moving objects. Landing? What's landing? Aeroplanes are basically bombs with wings. American pilots receive 240 hours of training before combat. You receive 40 hours in a prayer. It's like learning to drive by practicing only how to start the car and steer towards a cliff edge. Your advanced combat training consists of target practice on painted ship targets. The instructor points as though indicating holiday destinations. Hit the flight deck on carriers. Maximum damage. Hit the bridge on destroyers. Take out command. Maximum damage. At 18 years old, your careers advisor is teaching you to be a human torpedo. The psychological conditioning is relentless. Every meal begins with a meditation on death. Every night ends with writing letters explaining why dying in a fireball is magnificent. They're obsessed with cherry blossoms, flowers that bloom briefly and fall quickly. Like the sakura, you will shine beautifully before falling for the Emperor, explains Commander Tokagi. You start to believe it too, because admitting you're in a death cult is far too terrifying. Emperor Hirohito is literally a living god under the Shinto religion, not metaphorically divine, an actual supernatural being who walks, talks, and apparently needs glasses to see his divine destiny. You're supposed to die for someone who is immortal but wears corrective lenses. all powerful, yet in need of teenagers blowing themselves up to save his empire. The logic is flawless, so long as you don't think about it too hard. The religious manipulation cuts deep. They promise that dying in combat transforms you into a kami, a divine spirit that protects Japan forever from the yasukuni shrine. Your final words of friends aren't goodbye, but see you at yasukuni. But the cultural pressure goes further than religion. In Japan's honor and shame-based society, refusing means your entire family becomes an outcast. Parents, siblings, grandparents all suffer for your cowardice. Emotional blackmail wrapped up in patriotic ribbon. 6 months later, Tokko training makes prison look like summer camp. The hierarchy is simple. Anyone ranked above you can beat you bloody for any reason. A crease in your uniform, a beating. A salute given too slowly, a beating. A glance at the emperor's photograph in the wrong way, a beating. Your day begins at dawn with calisthenics, rifle maintenance, survival drills, and corrective instruction that looks a great deal like torture. Trainee pilot Ayokawa Daiki, a soft-spoken boy from Kagoshima, was beaten with a rifle butt until his face was unrecognizable. His bunkmate was slammed headfirst into concrete. He never came back from the infirmary, but this brutal treatment makes you almost long for the Kamikaze missions. At least flying towards a destroyer means the pain stops. Death becomes less frightening than another day of systematic brutalization. The beatings aren't random. They're psychological warfare designed to break you until you become an obedient weapon ready to be aimed and fired. A few days later, after night drills, you're crouched in the barracks polishing your boots when Yamamoto slips a folded piece of paper under your hand. It's from my cousin. He murmurs, "Keep it safe." It's a letter written in tight handwriting. I forced myself to believe I had to die. I thought my death would be pointless. Even if Japan won, my family would die in poverty because I wouldn't be there to support them. It tormented me. You look up. Who is this? A student pilot in Kyushu, studying philosophy before they pulled him out of class. Now they are pulling out all the young men. 3,000 teenage conscripts. The rest, university students. Almost none of the academy officers volunteered. The paper weighs more than it should. You've been told the Kamikaze was the purest form of honor. But here, in smudged ink, was proof it was nothing more than another order handed down to those too young to refuse. Spring 1945. You're 19 years old, and your turn has come. You're crouched inside the Oka, slung beneath the belly of a heavy G4M Betty bomber. Essentially, a flying coffin with you as a cargo. Top speed, fast enough to make survival impossible. Maneuverability, about on par with a falling anvil. Survival rate, we don't talk about that. The send-off is pure theater. A white headband tied around your forehead. A shallow cup of ceremonial sake that tastes like liquid regret. Speeches about joining your ancestors in glory. The mechanics bow as they pass, whether out of respect or because they won't be seeing you again. The Betty lurches into the sky, engine straining under the weight of death. You're crammed into the tiny Oka cockpit, surrounded by enough explosives to level an entire city block. For 30 minutes, you're nothing more than cargo chain beneath the bomber's belly. The Pacific crawls past below, blue and indifferent. You can't even see the target yet. Just endless water and the inside of your own helmet. Then the radio crackles, approaching target area. USS Manat Elabil in sight. Prepare for release. A violent jolt and suddenly you're free. The Betty banks away and leaves you alone in the sky. You flick the rocket switch. The acceleration crushes you into your seat. Your vision narrows as the altimeter needle races from resting to over 600 kilometers per hour in a matter of seconds. A visceral jolt of speed that makes maneuvering pointless and survival impossible. The destroyer grows in your view. Gray steel cutting through white waves. Other Okas coming in off the waves race ahead of you, each becoming a brief, violent bloom of fire and smoke. For a split second, instinct begs you to pull up, to fake a malfunction, to find any excuse to live. But there's nowhere to go. Your Oka has no landing gear, no spare fuel, no radio to call home. It was never built for the return trip. Months of conditioning kick in. The shame of disappointing your family. The promise of the Yasukuni shrine. The cherry blossom metaphors about a beautiful, brief existence. All the slogans come flooding back, drowning out that one sane thought. This is madness. You think of your mother, perhaps setting rice before your photograph right now, unaware her son is seconds away from becoming wreckage on the ocean floor. You think of the shop you'll never open, of the life you'll never live, of the children who'll never exist, because the men who give the orders intend to survive this war. The destroyer's deck fills your view, every rivet visible. Sailors scatter. Some throw themselves to the deck. Others freeze. Somewhere, someone shouts over the radio. But nothing can stop what's coming. 3 seconds. A flash of white. And then nothing. But those 3 seconds stretch out forever. Long enough to understand that this wasn't a heroic sacrifice. It was a waste. A waste of your life. A waste of your potential. A waste of everything you could have been if powerful men hadn't decided your death was worth more than your existence. Your name is added to the Yasukuni shrine. Your family receives a folded flag and official condolences. Military reports list you as one of thousands of successful kamikaze attacks. The war carries on for another 9 months before Japan surrenders anyway. And somewhere in the Pacific, fish swim among the wreckage of what was once an 18-year-old boy who just wanted to open a shop in his village. The Kamikaze program killed 3,800 Japanese pilots. Most were conscripts with barely any training. In some campaigns, hit rates peaked at 27% against a 2% average for conventional attacks, sinking 47 Allied ships and damaging hundreds more. Strategically, it was a failure. No major American aircraft carrier or battleship was destroyed, and it may well have pushed the United States towards the use of atomic bombs. Their letters speak of family, love, and fear, not fanaticism. They weren't born to die. They were convinced that deaths mattered more than their lives. That's a truth no cherry blossom metaphor can make beautiful.